to my channel. So today I thought I would do a video on model portfolios and just model portfolios in general, how I would usually photograph them. I did get a bit of a request from one of my viewers specifically for model portfolio shoots, and she actually asked some really great questions which I didn't even consider putting into a video until now, because I didn't even consider this as a video at all, which is really strange because model portfolios are like one of my main earners as far as photography is concerned, and fashion photography. So and not only that, like model portfolios are what I do on sometimes a daily basis, because they may not be paid, they might be test shoots, and it's essentially the same sort of structure, I guess, as a paid one. I think the first point I'm going to go through is what is a model portfolio. So a model portfolio is like a portrait shoot basically. Usually you will have different clients wanting these kinds of portfolios, so it's not always called a model portfolio necessarily, because you might get actors who approach you to add photos to their portfolio, or to basically start up their portfolio from scratch. So yeah, you might be photographing someone's entire portfolio if they're just starting out, or you might be just photographing to add to their portfolios, depending on what they want. So yeah, you might get actors, you might get musicians, you might get models. Generally models are probably the main clients as far as model portfolios are concerned. That's basically what a model portfolio is. As I said, they're not always paid. You might be doing test shoots. So test shoots I feel are pretty important in fashion photography, and developing your work as a fashion photographer and adding to your own portfolio. So that's when you can tend to do model portfolio shoots that are unpaid. But then as you develop your portfolio and you start to get more work and people actually approach you for paid shoots, that's when you tend to do the paid model portfolio shoots. So yeah, it's definitely something that's important if you're looking at becoming a fashion photographer. So I'm going to go through a few questions on this particular person's request. I think it was from Katia? I'm sorry, I probably butchered your name. That was the person who requested this video. So yeah, I'm just going to go through some of her questions that she specifically had, because I think they're questions that mainly a lot of people would have in regards to a model portfolio shoot, and probably stuff that I would have put in this video regardless. So the first question that I'm going to go through is, how many edited photos should you give the client or the model, actor, whatever? I can't necessarily answer this straight off because I think honestly it depends on your experience for one, and how many you're willing to give, like especially if it's paid. Usually if it's unpaid, I usually try and stick to around 10 to 20 images to give the model in return, because usually if it's free, you don't want to be sitting there editing 50 photos or anything like that, because you don't need that many usually, and they don't need that many either really. They just need like a selection of photos that they can choose from. They may not use every photo in their portfolio, but if you give them enough, just enough so they can kind of choose from the selection you've given them, then that's kind of good. If it's paid, I think it depends on how you've got your pricing system up and how you've got your packages laid out. I usually do my model portfolios in packages, so at the moment I've got 2 packages, and with the smaller package you get less photos, with the bigger package you get more photos obviously. So yeah, it just depends on how you work that out. With my smaller package I like to keep it around 10 to 15 photos, usually around the 10 photos mark, because you do get busy and you are busier as a photographer, so, and it is your time to edit the photos and you want to give them the absolute best shots for their portfolio, so I try and narrow it down to the 10 best. However, in my package that is a little bit longer and a little bit more expensive, then I will offer more photos for that time, so they have more of a selection, obviously, because they are paying more. So yeah, it's kind of a hard question to answer, but it really is dependent on you and how many photos you feel you're comfortable giving and editing. You don't want to be sitting there, particularly if it is unpaid, you don't want to be sitting there editing 50 photos, because I did that originally because I think I wanted to really improve my Photoshop skills as well, so I did so many photos, but in the end, was it worth it? Probably not. I mean, I went through a few free shoots where I did like 100 photos, so that was when I was first starting out, but it's probably not worth doing that many. And another question was with the original photos, so the raw photographs, and if you should give any out. I never give raw photos out, regardless of what the shoot is. There's a few reasons for it, but I never give them even with weddings really, like it's all edited work, because I feel like photography is part of the process, but then you obviously have the retouching and editing process, and I always feel like my work's just not finished, because part of my style as well is the toning and colouring of my images, and when I'm giving them the raw photo, it's not a finished product in my eyes, so I don't like doing it that way. I don't like giving people the raw photos. Another reason I don't particularly like giving raw photos out is because it makes it easier for people to edit them themselves, and I mean they can do that with any photo really, but I mean I've seen some instances where people have taken raw photos when I have given them out and they've been edited and they attribute my name to it, so that's when it gets a bit iffy, like especially if they've edited themselves or they've given it to another photographer to edit, and then put my name to it. It's my kind of reputation as well, so I guess I have a style that I like to sort of lead by, and I don't like giving out raw images, but I mean if that's something that you're comfortable with doing, then it's up to you, but personally I don't give the original photos out. And another question was, is it similar to other portrait shoots? So I'm not sure how to answer this. I guess in the way of packages, possibly. You could set up similar packages to portrait shoots, because really with portrait shoots, you know, if they're professional shoots, like you just want some professional photos of yourself, just using this as an example, but if you're trying to do that, then yeah, I would probably have like a similar package in place. I mean, it's the same sort of process. You've got to go out, you've got to photograph, you don't want to give them too many photos, and you probably have a similar pricing system, I think. But I mean, like this is all based on like my experience. I mean, everyone has a different experience with photography and they have different ways of doing things, so it's good to just do some research, I guess, and just come up with a solution that's working best for you, I guess. Another question, which I will hopefully answer in a pricing video, which I am planning on getting up soon. I keep saying that I'm planning on getting it up soon and then I never do, so I'm sorry about that. But the question is, should I charge per hour? And personally, I don't charge per hour. I used to when I was starting out because I was unsure of how to price things, and I will go over this more in depth. I can't really answer it all right now, but I prefer to have like packages, because if you charge per hour, sometimes you could be there all day, and it's totally up to your client then if they want you to stay all day, and you can't work out your hours properly usually that way. And personally, what I like to do is I like to have a package, like a base package, and if they really want more shooting time, then I charge per hour after that, and I'll say to them, how many hours extra do you want? And then I'll give them another quote based on that. So if they would like an extra hour, then I'll give them a price for an extra hour on top of the package deal. But usually I like to stick to my packages because I just feel that they're a bit easier, they're all inclusive, and just kind of easier to work around in general, I guess. The next question was, how much time should I spend shooting between each change of clothing? This is for model portfolios usually. So I have limits with my packages for model portfolios on how many clothes or clothing changes the model can have. Just to keep things to a minimum, because sometimes people turn up with 10 changes of clothing and you can't fit that out, like you can't fit it into an hour shoot. And usually for my smallest package that I have with model portfolios, I usually like to have about 3 max. But this question is completely dependent on how quick you are with shooting and when you're comfortable and confident that you've got the photos that you need for the shoot. So sometimes it could take a little bit longer, sometimes it can be a bit quicker. You know, if you've got a model that's quite experienced, usually it will be quicker. If you've got a model that's just starting out and they're a little bit nervous, or you might need to sort of get them feeling comfortable first in the shoot, then it can take a bit longer. Usually for me, when I'm doing my model portfolio shoots with my smallest package of, and I think it goes for about an hour from memory, I always forget, I forget my own packages. But yeah, for usually like the hour shoot, I will usually spend 20 minutes on each outfit, but like I said, that can be more or less depending on the model that you have, depending on how many changes of clothing that you do have, and you know, it just depends. And the last question from Katya, I hope I'm saying that right, is what kind of people will ask for a portrait shoot. So if this is just like a portrait shoot in general, anyone, I guess. For a model portfolio shoot, or for a portfolio shoot, just to generalize it a little bit more, usually actors, sometimes musicians, and most of the time it will be someone who's looking at getting into modelling. Models and actors / actresses are usually the two main groups that contact me, but more often than not it is a model portfolio shoot. So people that are looking at getting into modelling, people that are looking at getting into an agency, a modelling agency for the first time, so they will usually pay for photos so they have something to show the agency when they go for an interview, or if they want to submit applications. So just another few little points to add to this. Usually with model portfolio shoots, I don't provide the clothing if it's a paid shoot, only because I feel like you can experiment a little bit more with a test shoot. If it's free, then you can kind of bring the clothing that you've got along and you can kind of see what works and if it's going to fit. But when it's paid and you have a lot less time to do that, it's kind of hard, you know, to make sure the clothing is going to fit the person that's hired you, and whether they're going to like the clothing or not. So usually I leave that up to the client, and what they would like to wear is what they can bring along, and then they're going to feel probably a little bit more comfortable wearing it too, especially if it's their first shoot. So I usually like to do that, and then on a test shoot I might bring some clothing along, and I'll get the model to bring some clothing along too, so we can kind of mix and match. And generally for the length of model portfolio shoots, at first it started off a lot longer for me. Like I would usually take quite a few hours, like 5 hours or more on a test shoot, but I've definitely narrowed that down now. I'm to the point where I can usually do a paid model portfolio shoot within about 1 to 3 hours, usually is the average. 2 hours plus would be my more expensive model portfolio package, but actually I think at the moment I have altered them so it's 1 to 2 hours. So 1 hour for the smaller package and 2 hours for the larger package, because usually from my experience of doing so many of them over the last few years, I've just found that usually within 2 hours I have more than enough photos if it's just for their portfolio that they're looking for images for. Like I feel like it's taking me a lot less time to do these days. For test shoots, totally dependent on what you're looking for in your portfolio and you know how long that's going to take. Sometimes you might have a whole team on board, so you might have 5 creatives on board helping you with this shoot. So this one, you know, test shoots can be all day. It just totally depends on what you want for your portfolio. And one more point, locations for model portfolios. So for the location, I'll usually ask, if it's a paid shoot, I'll ask the client where would she like to shoot or where would he like to shoot, and it's totally up to them at first, but then I'll also say if you'd like me to give you recommendations, I can. So I'll see what usually they want for the shoot first. So it's the same thing with planning the shoot out in general and the style of shoot they want or the theme that they want. I'll say, do you have any inspiration images that you can send me? Is there anything in particular you want for the shoot? And if they say no, we'll leave that up to you, then that's fine, and I can provide them with some inspiration images, different themes that they might like for the shoot. But usually they have some inspiration images that they can just send through to me, and then I can get a general idea of what they want, and then obviously the location can kind of, you know, come from that, and we can kind of work around it that way. But usually it's a bit of a collaboration between both me and the client, or the photographer and the client. I am terrible with this, but I actually do have contracts for my clients. Half the time I forget to bring them along, but it is kind of important. and it's definitely good to have a contract there. I hopefully might do a bit of a video about this at some stage about contracts, but it's good to just have your terms and conditions in written form that they can sign, and then you're going to avoid any, trouble later on if things go wrong or, something like that. Alright guys, I hope I've given you enough information on this topic. If there's any other questions that you have, please leave them in the comments section below and I'll try to answer them as best I can. It's there's just so many questions that you could ask about portfolio shoots and photo shoots in general, and a lot of the time it's totally dependent on the photographer, on you guys and what you like to do within your businesses. But just leave anything below, if you've got any more questions, and I will try and get back to you on those. And thank you very much for watching as usual, and thank you for all the requests lately. I've been getting a lot of requests and it's good, so it's keeping my channel flowing quite well, and I'm able to see what you guys want to see on my channel essentially, and then I can fill in those requests as I go along, which is good. I'm hopefully going to have some more follow me around videos as far as my test shoots are concerned. I have a few test shoots planned over the next few weeks in Sydney, so you guys can come along with me to those shoots essentially and see what I do, and see that they're probably not as scary as what you think, especially agency shoots, because they always seem scary at first, but yeah, they're not too bad. But thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!